Meghan Markle's childhood letter to Procter Gamble, P&G, protesting a sexist dishwashing soap ad has long been touted as the moment that marked her first step towards activism. It's an inspiring story. A young girl bravely taking on a large corporation to fight against gender stereotypes. This narrative has been a cornerstone of Meghan's public persona, repeatedly highlighted as a pivotal moment in her journey toward becoming an advocate for women's rights. However, questions about the authenticity of this story have begun to surface, casting doubt on its accuracy. Critics are now suggesting that Meghan may have exaggerated or even fabricated certain elements of the tale to bolster her public image. Some of the inconsistencies revolve around the details of who was involved in the letter-writing campaign. In Meghan's retellings, she often omits the contributions of her father, Thomas Markle, and a classmate, both of whom may have played significant roles. This raises suspicions about whether the story was a solo crusade by a precocious 11-year-old, as Meghan often portrays it, or whether it was more of a group effort, guided by adult influences. Moreover, Meghan's father, Thomas Markle, who has been estranged from her in recent years, has never publicly supported this version of events, fueling further skepticism. He has remained relatively silent on this particular story, but his absence from the narrative has led some to speculate that Meghan may have conveniently left out his role to shape the story more to her favor. The fact that her accounts rarely, if ever, mention the role of a classmate who was reportedly involved in drafting the letter raises further questions about why these details are excluded. For decades, Procter & Gamble remained silent on the matter, never confirming or denying Meghan's claims about the letter and its impact on their decision to change the commercial. However, recent rumors suggest that the company may be considering legal action against Meghan for repeatedly citing the incident without their consent. These whispers have led to speculation that Procter & Gamble may soon challenge Meghan's story publicly, a move that could force the Duchess of Sussex to provide more concrete details about the letter's origins and her father's involvement. Adding to the complexity of the situation, Meghan has been legally cautious in her retellings, often avoiding direct mentions of Procter & Gamble by name, possibly to evade defamation claims. By carefully crafting her narrative without directly accusing the company, she has managed to keep the story alive while shielding herself from legal repercussions, at least so far. However, if Procter & Gamble does decide to pursue legal action, it could become much harder for Meghan to maintain control over the narrative. She may be compelled to provide proof of the letter's authenticity and the real extent of her involvement in the campaign, opening the door to revelations that could challenge her version of events. Despite the growing skepticism surrounding this story, Meghan has continued to recount it on various public platforms, presenting it as a defining moment in her life. She frequently cites this as the genesis of her activism, using it as an example of her long-standing commitment to social justice and gender equality. However, if the situation escalates to legal proceedings, it could severely undermine the credibility of this story and cast doubt on other aspects of her public persona. Legal experts have pointed out that the potential lawsuit could lead to Meghan having to disclose more details about the letter's origins, possibly revealing that her father and others played a far greater role than she has let on. If Procter & Gamble moves forward with legal action, it could shake the foundations of Meghan Markle's carefully constructed image as an activist. For years, she has framed herself as someone who has always stood up for what is right, starting from her childhood. However, if it turns out that her involvement in the P&G letter-writing campaign was less significant than she has claimed, it could deal a major blow to her credibility. Such a revelation would not only tarnish this pivotal story, but could also lead to increased scrutiny of other aspects of Meghan's public narrative. In an era where public figures are increasingly held accountable for their words and actions, this potential legal battle could set a precedent for how personal stories are verified, especially when they are used as cornerstones of a public image. Meghan Markle has relied heavily on this narrative to illustrate her long-standing commitment to activism, but with questions swirling about its authenticity, she may soon face the challenge of defending it in a court of law. This looming legal threat also raises important questions about the role of the media and the public in scrutinizing personal stories. For years, Meghan's tale has been taken at face value by many, including major media outlets that have repeated the story without delving too deeply into its veracity. Now, as doubts emerge, It may force a reevaluation of how such narratives are reported and whether they should be subjected to greater scrutiny from the outset. If Meghan is forced to reveal more about the true origins of the letter, it could lead to a broader conversation about how personal stories are used in public life. Are they meant to inspire and galvanize others, even if some of the details are embellished? Or should they be held to the same standards of accuracy as more formal claims? Meghan's narrative has undoubtedly resonated with many, but as the potential for legal action looms, it may ultimately be her credibility that is put on trial.